Hi everyone, what's up? This is part 4 of the window function series, and in this part I will discuss FirstValue, LastValue and NthValue function in detail using interview questions and their answers. Furthermore, I will discuss what frame clause is and how to use it. In case you haven't seen part 1, 2 and 3, the link is in the I button and description. I have discussed all the remaining window function in those parts, so feel free to check them out as well. If you're new to my channel, here's a quick note. I post new videos every week in which I discuss data engineer interview experiences along with interview questions and answers. So please hit the subscribe button. It will help my channel grow and keep me motivated to keep making such informative videos, and also it's absolutely free. So what are analytical or value window functions? The value window function in SQL are used to assign a value to a row from other rows. So in this part, I'm going to cover 3 value functions, which are FirstValue, LastValue and NthValue. There is also lag and lead function, which I covered in the previous part. Do check that out if you want to know about that. So here is my sample data. So I have included the link to this notebook as well as this data in the description. You can use this for your practice purpose. So here you can see I have order date, region, manager, salesman, item, units and unit price. So all the questions that I've discussed in this video are based on this data only. So now let's get started with FirstValue. So what is FirstValue? It is used to find the first value of a given column or expression for a group of rows. It can be within a partition as well. So here is the syntax of FirstValue. You can write first_value. Inside it can be a column name or an expression. Then the second parameter is keep null or remove null. Basically this is a boolean parameter. You can either include true or false. True means that you want to include null in your query in your FirstValue function, or if you write false, then nulls will be ignored. FirstValue can also be written like this, just writing first and inside the parameters remain same. So as I said, you can either use column name or expression. If second parameter is set true, first will return only non-null values, and if it is false, then null values will also be included. Let's check out an example for this. So how to add expression in FirstValue. So here in this example, I have shown you how you can add an expression. What I've done is select, then first, inside this is an expression where I'm doing upper of item. So from our sales data, we have this item column, and what I want to do here is I want to convert each and every value to uppercase. So in order to execute this expression, I have written upper and inside that item, and out of this I am doing a first. So I'm calling this column first item, and similar thing I'm doing with salesman. I'm converting the value of salesman column to lower, and then whatever output comes of this expression, I'm applying FirstValue function to it and calling it firstman. So here you can see I have got this result. So because we have not done any partition by or any order by, so a random value is returned. I have few more examples. Let's look into that. Now let's see how FirstValue works with null. So in the first command, you can see I've written select, then FirstValue, and inside that call and comma false. So this second parameter tells us if we have to ignore nulls or we don't have to ignore nulls. Moving on from values, in this the first one is null, second is 10, then 5 and as tab call. So based on this query, FirstValue has to decide what value comes first. Now because I have set the ignore null, that is the second parameter, equal to false, so it will not ignore the nulls and return nulls if it comes first. So as you can see in the result, we are getting null. Similarly, in the second command, what I have done is select FirstValue, call, then the second parameters, that is ignore null, equal to true from values, and here the first one is null, then 10, then 5. So if you see the result, 10 is returned. Why? Because we are telling FirstValue to skip nulls or ignore nulls. How? We have set this ignore null equal to true. So this is how FirstValue works around null values in the rows. Let's move on to the question now. So the question is, which is the most expensive item sold by each salesman in central region? So what I've done is I've done select star, then units into unit price, that gives me amount of a particular item, then first value I've applied on the item over partition by salesman, order by units into amount price, that is my final amount, and I've done it in descending order and calling this column as expensive item. Then I'm taking the data from sales data table, and because the question mentions that I have to filter out the records in central region only, so I'm using where region equal to central. Now in the question it is written that for each salesman I have to find out the expensive item. So this itself tells me that my partition by column is salesman. So let's pick one particular salesman or one particular window and try to understand this query. So our first window is this David window. Now inside this particular window, what I have to do? First I have to find out the amount of each item. How to find out the amount? We will multiply units and unit price. So 53 multiplied by 1198 gives me some 63,000 approx. Similarly 80 multiplied by 500 gives me 40,000. And now once I have the amounts of each of the item, all I have to do to find out which is expensive, I will order all the records based on which one is the highest. So I will order this all the records in descending order of amount. So the highest amount goes at the top, the lowest amount comes at the bottom. Once I have this, then using first on any of the other columns, or even this column, I can get that particular value in the first row. So what I have done, I have applied first value on the item column, that gives me television as the result. Because our amount, that is our ordering column, was in descending order, so 60,000, that is the highest value or the most expensive amount, goes at the very top. Now because the question asked me to list the item, so I applied first value on the item column and returned me television. So you can see in my result column or expensive item column, we have television for all the rows in this particular window. Similarly, if I take this John window, there also I have television. Apparently in this Lewis window also I have television, but yes, see in this Shelley window, I have home theater because this is the expensive product sold by this particular salesman. So I hope you understood what this question is and how I solved this. Now, before we go on to the next topic, I wanted to show you that now what if the question asks you to display one record per salesman and that particular record should have the highest amount. Basically, you can see David has two records here. Now you only have to print this particular record because it has the highest amount. Why there are two records? Because I have written this subquery where at the end I'm doing where item equal to expensive item. Now I know for David the expensive item is television, but apparently there were two records where item was equal to television. So both these records popped up. Now I want you to put the answer in the comment and I want you to solve this question where you returned all the salesmen but one record per salesman where the amount is the highest. So for David, this particular record should be returned. Then for Herman, this particular record should be written, the highlighted one. Then for Martha, this particular record should be returned. So I hope you understood what I'm asking. Now the catch is you cannot use any window function to solve this. I mean, you can use the first value, you can do it till here, but post that how you get the only one record out of these two, you cannot use rank, row number or any other window function. Put the answer in the comment so that others can learn from it. Now the next question is, which salesman who sold the home theater has highest sale for it? Basically, out of all the home theaters that every salesman sold, we have to find that particular salesman who made the highest sale amount for this item. Now there are situations where a salesman sold the same item twice or thrice or maybe more times. Like example, Louis sold television in two particular months, like 105 month he sold one and in 02 months also he sold one. And here are the total number of units this particular salesman sold in this particular date and this particular date. Similarly, let me see if we have for home theater or not. So yeah, so here you can see Louis, the salesman, sold home theater twice. One was in 2019 December, one was in November. And here are the units that the particular salesman sold. So what I have done for this is, first I have added up the total amount of the home theater's sale that each salesman did. So how I did it? I've done select salesman, then item, then sum of units into unit price, and I'm calling it sum amount from sales data where item is home theater. Why? Because we're only concerned about home theater. And finally, because this is an aggregate function, so we need to apply group by. So I'm doing group by 1 and 2, that is salesman and item. Now this return me the total sum amount of every home theater that a individual salesman made. Like Alexander, total sales amount for home theater made was 62,000. Michael made was 28,500. Now that we have this data, we can easily order the sum amount to check which sum amount is the highest. The one that is highest is the one that we are more concerned about. Let's check that out. So in order to do so, what I've done is select star, comma, then first of salesman, because the question says that I have to return the salesman name. So I'm doing first of salesman over, then order by sum amount and in descending order. So the highest sum amount will come at the top, and I'm calling this column as first salesman. Then from this select salesman item sum of units into unit price sum amount from sales data where item equal to home theater group by 1 2. This is the same query which I showed you above. So when I execute this entire subquery, what it gives me? It gives me the name of the salesman in this first salesman column that has the highest sum amount. So this is how you can solve this question. I hope you understood the use case of first and how it is helpful. And you can practice this question on your own. The link to this notebook is in the description. Now the next topic is last value. So what is last value? It is used to find the last value of a given column or expression for a group of rows. It is opposite to first value. So here is the syntax. Last underscore value, then we can either write column name or expression, and then we can tell if is ignore null is equal to true or false. Basically, if is ignore is equal to true, then it will ignore all the nulls. If is ignore is equal to false, then it will include the nulls as well. And there is a second way of writing the last value syntax. You can just write last and inside again the column or expression and comma true or false. So let's check out the example now. How to add expression in last value. So what I've done here is I have concatenated region with India, and I've written the entire expression inside this last value function, and I'm calling this the output of this particular operation as last region. So here, once I've executed, here you can see the last value of region that it printed out was West, and because I concatenated it with India, so the result is West India. Now let's check out how last value works with null. So here in this query, what I've done is I've written select last value, then call, then comma false from values, and the values are 10, 5 and null. So last value returns null as false is set. So is ignore null is equal to false. That means you don't have to ignore nulls, and as you can see in the result, null is returned. Similarly, in the second command, I've written select last value, call, comma true from values 10, 5, null as tap call. And here you can see I've written is the second parameter as true. That means if null you encounter, then you have to ignore it. So here the last value returned is 5, that is this one. So I hope you understand how last value works and how we can use this with expression and when null occurs. Now let's move on to the question. So the question is, which item has the lowest units sold for each salesman in each region? So in the solution query, you can see I have included both last value and first value. So the syntax is last value of item over partition by salesman, order by units and in descending order. And I'm calling it least sold. And I've also included the first value to just show you the comparison between them. So here also the syntax is first value item over partition by salesman, order by units and in descending order. Now the question asks me to get the lowest unit. So here I've ordered the units within every window or within every salesman window in descending order. So this means that the highest sold units or highest number of units will come at the top and the lowest number of units will come at the bottom. So in this window, if I apply the first value function, then it gives me the topmost row, that is the highest sold unit row. And if I apply last value function, then it should return me the lowest or the bottommost row, that is the least sold unit row. So, and the question also asks me that this should be in East region, so I filter out the data in region equal to East. Now let's check out the result. So as you can see, the first sold or the most sold item is television, and if we check out the data, television sold some 95 units. So yes, out of all of them, television was the most sold item. But if we look at the least sold or the LastValue functions column, you can see it is not as per what we expected. So if I just select this particular window, that is this Alexander salesman's window, so here technically home theater would have been the answer because only 4 units were sold, but we got all of them, and these are identical to this particular column, that is the item column. Now why this happened, I will explain you in a while, but how to fix this, let's check that out. So in order to fix this particular scenario, what you have to do is you have to write or use this particular frame clause. The frame clause is rows between unbounded preceding and unbounded following. If I use this particular frame clause after my order by statement and run the query, then you can see I've got the answer what I expected. I'll again select the Alexander window. So here you see home theater, which was sold 4 units only, was my least sold unit, least sold item for this particular salesman, and my least sold column has home theater in it. Now what are frame clause and how to use it? Let's try to understand that. So what is frame clause? A frame is a subset of records within a window. The above query was not returning correct last value because of the default frame clause. Now the default frame clause is range between unbounded preceding and current row. And this is also called rows between unbounded preceding and current row. Now let me try to explain you what this is using a particular dataset. So here in this query, as you can see, what I've done is I have calculated the last value of item column, and I have partitioned by salesman and ordered by units in descending order, similar to what I did in the previous section. Now I've also selected the region equal to East and salesman equal to Alexander. Basically, I'm only showing you a single window to help explain this better. Now what this particular default frame clause does is it will compare itself with all the rows before it. So let's consider the first row. Now we have to find out that which television or which item is the lowest. Now if I compare television with rows before it, which one is the lowest? I mean, there are no rows before the first row, so television automatically becomes the lowest sold item. Now when it goes to record 2, this frame clause checks record 2 with record 1. So out of these two or out of these two units, which is the lower one? 64 is the lower one. So here in the answer you can see cell phone is written. Now it goes to the third record and again it checks all the rows before it. Now 62 is compared with 64 and then with 95. And as we can see, so 62 is the lowest one. So the video game value is written here in the least sold. This goes on till the last row. So this last row is compared with all of the units or all of the rows before it. And as you can see, 4 is the lowest one. So home theater is written here. Now, if you use some common sense here, we have arranged the units in descending order. That means the row before the current row will always be have a higher value. Meaning if I arrange units in descending order, then definitely this will be higher than this. This will be higher than this, and this will be higher than this, and so on. So every time we compare any row with all other rows above it, it will return the same value. It will return the same value of the current row because it is the lowest one compared to all of them. That's why we see least sold column and items column as identical. So in order to solve this, we have to use another frame clause, not the default one. So let me try to explain what that another frame clause does. So the other one is called rows between unbounded preceding and unbounded following, and it's also called range between unbounded preceding and unbounded following. So if you realize that this one and the default frame clause are similar, only part that changes is in the default one we use current row, in this one we use unbounded following. So what it does, let's try to understand. Now I've used the same query and just changed the frame clause. Now this time this particular television or this particular row will be checked with all other. So in the default frame clause we were checking with the current row, like current row with the rows before it. But this time this particular row will be checked with all of them. So out of all of them, which one is the lowest one? That is this one. This 4 unit is the lowest one. So for this record in the least sold, we will have home theater value because this is the lowest one. Again, now this cell phone will be checked with all of the rows below it, like all of them up till bottom. And again, 4 is the lowest one, so here home theater comes. Similarly, when we go to the third record, it again checks with all the rows below it. And again, this 4 is the lowest one, so here it comes. Now, because we've arranged the order units column in descending order, so definitely the lowest row will have the least value. So if we check any row with the lowest row, this value will only return. That's why we see the home theater value inside least sold as per expected. So I hope you understand what these frame clause does and how you can use this. So what I'll ask you is, try to use this frame clause with FirstValue function, arrange the units or any other column in descending and ascending, and see what difference the result is. Now let's move on to the next part. So the last section of this video is NthValue. What is NthValue? The NthValue is a window function that allows you to get a value from nth row in an ordered set of rows. So here is the syntax of NthValue. NthValue expression, comma, n, where expression is a column name or an expression as used in first and last function. N is a positive integer signifying which row to return. So let's say you selected a column name. So after that column name, you have to specify, like if you want the first value, second value, third, fourth, or whichever value from that particular column. Now, the NthValue function returns the value of expression from nth row of window frame. If that nth row does not exist, then the function will return null. N must be a positive integer, example 1, 2 and 3. So I hope you understand how NthValue works. And now let's check out some examples. So the first example is NthValue using default frame clause. And what is frame clause that we have already discussed. So here is my query. Select star, comma, NthValue, item and comma 2 over order by units and in ascending order, and I'm calling this column as NthValue. So out of this entire record, NthValue should technically return this particular item, that is desk. But if you check out the data, the NthValue of all other records are desk, but the first row has null. And why is that? This is because of the default frame clause. So what happens is, this particular record will check everything that comes before it, and because there are no records before it, so technically there is no second value for this record, so it prints out null. Now this, for when we are calculating the value for second record, it will check itself with all the records that come before it. So out of these two records, which one is the second record? This one is only the second record, that is this particular row. So the value of NthValue has desk. Now again, if we move on to the third record, so this whole record will check with all the rows that are coming before it. Now, based on our analysis, which is the second record out of all three? That is the second row. So this second row's item, that is desk, is printed in the result in the NthValue column. Now let's say I selected this particular 8th record. So what do you think will the answer will be? This 8th record will compare itself with all the records that come before it. And out of all this record, which one is the second value? That is the second row. So the second row's item, that is desk, is printed in 8th record's NthValue column. So this is how the default frame clause works with NthValue. Now in order to fix it, we know how to do that. We will just have to use NthValue using unbounded following frame clause. So we'll come to that later. Let me show you another example of the default frame clause. So in this query, what I've done, select star, comma, NthValue, then again item, and here I've written 4. So basically I want to pick the 4th record over order by units and in ascending order as NthValue. So now, as you can see, the first record will compare with all the records before it, and there are no second record. So null is returned. Again, there are no 4th record before it, so it returns null. So let's come to the second record. This second record will again check all the records before it. Now out of these two, there is no 4th record, right? So null is returned again. Moving on to the third record. This third record will compare with all the records before it. So again, there are only 3 records. There is no 4th record, so null comes. So finally, we move on to 4th record, and now out of all the 4th record here, there is a 4th record present. So it returns desk because the 4th record item is desk. Now let's move on to a different value. Let's say this 9th record. So out of this 9th, because the default frame clause is used, this 9th will compare itself with all others, right? So out of these 9, which one is the 4th record? This is the 4th record. So for this 9 also we have desk value, and this goes on for all the other records. So I hope you understood how the default frame clause works in NthValue. Now let's move on to see how we can fix this. So next example is NthValue using unbounded following frame clause. Now in this query, as you can see, I have written select star, comma, NthValue item, comma 2 over order by units, and I've mentioned rows between unbounded preceding and unbounded following. So basically now what will happen, every record will compare itself with all the records before it, that is unbounded preceding, and all the record that comes after it, that is unbounded following. So this, if you see this first record, it will compare with all the records after it and check what is the second record. So once comparing all the records after it, this one is the second record. That's why desk is there in the first record's NthValue. If I pick up any random record, let's say 8. So 8 will check all the records before it and all the records after it. So in this whole combined data, which one is the second record? Well, this one is the second record. So in fact, in 8, the NthValue's value is desk. That is from this, that comes from this particular record. So this is how you can use the other frame clause. And I think now you understand how frame clause interferes or how frame clause changes your result in NthValue and LastValue. Let's move on to another example now. So before we move on to the question, here's a final example. How to use NthValue with partition by. So here is the query. Select star, NthValue item 2 over partition by salesman, order by units, and then I've mentioned rows between unbounded preceding and unbounded following as NthValue from sales data. So the whole operation remains same. The only thing that changes here is this time NthValue will act upon a single window. So because I've mentioned that salesman is a window, let's select one window here. So here Alexander is the first window. Now NthValue will find out the second item based on the ordered units from this window. So here, which one is the second item? So video game is the second item in this Alexander unit. And now, because I've also mentioned the other frame clause, not the default one, so you can see NthValue has video games value inside it for all the records. This goes for all the other windows as well, all the other partitions as well. So here for David salesman, you can see we have cell phone. Then for Diana, we also have cell phone. For John, we have television, so on. I hope you understand how NthValue is working with partition by. This part is not much different compared to FirstValue or LastValue or any of the window functions that we have learned so far. Now let's move on to the question. Now the question is, which month in 2018 has the 4th and 6th highest sale? So what I've done, I've selected order date, year of order date, and similar thing you can do to find out the month, then item, salesman, and in order to know which one is the highest sales, I have to find the amount. And how to find the amount? Well, units multiplied by unit price. So out of this entire data, I need to find out two things. First, month and 4th and 6th highest sales in that month. So try it out this once, and once you come back, we'll look at the solution. So the first thing that I did is I have pulled out the month from the order date column. So the query is select order date, month of order date as month, item, salesman, and units multiplied by unit price, and I'm calling it amount. And because the query or the question wanted me to use only 2018's data, so I filtered out year of order date equal to 2018. So here we have the entire 2018's data, and here are the individual months and how much sales happened in that month. So if you look closely, then there are a couple of months where multiple items got sold, or same item got sold by multiple salesmen. So example, this month number 2, there are 2 items sold here. So we have to find out the total amount or total sales of this month. Basically, we have to add up these two values. Similarly, you can see the 7th month, home theater was sold by 2 different salesmen. So again, here also we have to add up these two values. And in order to do so, what I have to do, I have to group by on this month column and sum up this particular amount column. So that's what I've done in the next command. So as you can see, I've written select month of order date, and I'm calling it as month. then sum of units multiplied by unit price, and I'm calling it as total amount, and again where year of order date equal to 2018, then group by 1. This returns me every month and total amount or total sales that happened in every month. Now, once I have this data ready, finally I can apply nth value and put which particular index or which particular nth value I require. So the question asks me 4th and 6th. So we have to use 4 and 6. So here is my final answer. Select star, comma, nth value of month, and I want the 4th value from this month column over order by total amount in descending order. So the highest total amount will go at the top, the lowest one will be at the bottom. Now the default frame clause will not return what we expect. So we have used rows between unbounded preceding and unbounded following. And I'm calling the 4th highest nth value or the 4th nth value as 4th highest sale and 6th nth value as 6th highest sale. So these two lines are entirely same. So only difference is I've included 6 here and I've changed the column name. So here is my subquery. The subquery is same what I calculated here. So once I run this entire query, you can see I have month, total amount, 4th highest sale and 6th highest sale. So the 4th highest sale tells me that number 4 or 4th month, basically this particular record, has the 4th highest sale, and 6th highest sale tells me that number 3, that is 3rd month. So this particular record, 3rd month, has the 6th highest sale. So I hope you understood this question, like how I solved this. I hope you understood how frame clause work, because this is very important and it is asked in interviews a lot. So what I'll suggest is practice a lot. The link to this notebook and the data is in the description, and I'll see you next time. So that's it for this video. If you found it useful, then please share it with your friends and like the video. In the coming few weeks, I have planned many such videos on PySpark and SQL interview questions. So stay tuned for them, and if you have not subscribed, then please press the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.